Hello, my name is Richard today, and I'm here to read this book, the Daily Reflections book for October, this one, October 6, 2025. And it's called Facing Ourselves. And fear says, you dare not look. That's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. One such version looks like this. From page 49. How often I avoided a task in my drinking days just because it appeared so large. Is it any wonder, even if I have been sober for some time, that I will act that same way when faced with what appears to be a monumental job, such as a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself? What I discover after I have arrived at the other side, when my inventory is completed, is that the illusion was greater than the reality. The fear of facing myself kept me at a standstill, and until I became willing to put pencil to paper, I was arresting my growth based on an intangible. Period. The end of the reading. I figured something, well, let's see. I may have figured something out this morning about another way that these books are put together. I always have this thought, I'm leaving leaving something out, or I've missed something. And also I get sidetracked easily in my concentration. So maybe I'll start with the point of just this other sidetracked thing. The first week, okay, in this book, it covers like 4 weeks of the month. The first week, I'm just basing this off of very limited data, but it seems to make sense to me that in the first week, it's kind of like a broad stroke about what? About the step. And what step? Well, this is October. It says October up there. That I wanted to explain something about that too. I'm just doing that to show you that I basically have the actual literature here, and I am really trying to read the actual stuff. I'm not just making this stuff up. Okay, so the way I think this book is set up is like it says on the cover. This is a book of reflections by AA members for AA members. What do AA members do to keep sober? One thing we do is we try and adhere to these steps. And what are the steps? Here's in the back of this book, the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the month of October. People refer to that as the 10th month of October. In the 10th month of October, this book, I believe, is trying to speak about the 10th step kind of things. And the 10th step of Alcoholics Anonymous is continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Period. That just brings me to something else I want to unpackage a bunch about, but not yet. This thing is that I feel like I'm always leaving something behind, or glossed over something because of the concentration thing, and then I get way over here and I forget all about why I even brought it up, whatever it is. Today, this thing that during the first week, in these first 7 days, today being the 6th of the 7 days, of the month, the 10th month, we're going to get the broad strokes on why continuing a inventory, a personal inventory, and why promptly admitting when we discover we were wrong might be beneficial for us, for sobriety probably mainly, which in turn kind of makes everything better. So that alleviates, at least for myself, I get a sense of relief knowing that even if I don't fully explain myself, if I feel like I'm glossing over a bunch of stuff, if I just keep reading these things, it will become clear. Like in the first 6-7 days, something will click and I'll understand why, or I'll understand what they're trying to point at and things like that. And this is kind of a character defect I have still, which, I believe we get a fresh start at just being a wreck every day, because you can start out the day in many different ways, and what's going to be the most common way to start the day is probably the way that you're most familiar and comfortable with, because it's like an auto program, an autopilot kind of thing where we don't need to maybe consciously think about things, and we just kind of drift into doing stuff for the day. People run their entire lives like that, and they just drift into things, and then they think this, whatever they think. I don't know what they think, and I'm guilty of that. Anyways. If we wake up thinking, I don't want to do that anymore, I don't want to be that broken, practicing alcoholic any longer, to really zero in on what the issue I'm trying to talk about here is that I know I don't want to be that guy anymore, the drunken alcoholic. I know about the results of a lot of my drinking. I don't actually know a lot of the stuff I was actually doing because I was blacked out. But I don't like the results I had, and there's just so much involved in that that I'm not that guy anymore. And 20 years have gone by where I've been doing like this kind of reading and stuff, right, and going to meetings. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the reading today. No, I will, because I have faith. Okay. So I don't have to explain everything because the book will do it for us, I think. Okay, that's one thing. Now, so great. Now I feel slightly better. That was all for me. And maybe you can find benefit in that too. So, in the, I don't know how many, a couple months here, in about 50 or 60 videos that I've done here, I feel like I brought something up and haven't got to it yet. And then I made it, I said a while back, quite a while back, say 30 videos ago, that, you know what, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I don't have a script, I don't have a plan necessarily of exactly how this is going to go, because I believe speaking from the heart is the best way to do things. My cats are going to have a problem over here behind me. It might get noisy with them. So now that's got my concentration halfway over here and halfway over here, and that's not optimal. Okay, so 10th month, 10th step, continue to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. One purpose of why the promptly admitting thing is in there. When we're wrong, if we can promptly, probably first thing, become aware that we're wrong. I'm sure you've been in an argument where you feel like you're right, and if you can just step back from yourself your opponent is thinking they're right also. And then it gets to be a standoff, and there's no room either way for anybody to move because you're both right, and it's just a brick wall, and it's frustrating, and a lot of damage comes from that, and a lot of valuable time is lost also. So if you can understand that maybe you could be wrong, admit that right away while you're having this disagreement, altercation, discussion. Maybe just plant the seed that maybe I could be wrong, and maybe I could try and look at this from the other person's perspective in the effort of a mutual agreement that both of us can be happy with, or that all of us can be happy with. That's a way tricky thing. But in a let's just keep this to like two people, and one of them being an alcoholic, and that one is a recovered alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. I still don't know what the proper term is, but it's just a name, a label, a way to get a handle, a concept on what we're talking about. This person, the alcoholic that's trying to repent, is that word that I couldn't think of a long ways back. I made a note of that in the comments. Oh boy. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted that. If you can get to that point of considering the other person's point of view, incorporating that into your mood even, it can help a lot in defusing a lot of situations. And why might that be helpful? Simply because I like to sleep at night, and I like going to bed sober. That's my number one goal each day, is if I can just make it to where I'm going to sleep sober, that's been a good day. I mean, that's I don't know what that sounds like, but that's leaving a lot out. If I'm feeling like the day was a loss, if I'm sober at the end of it, it's a win. It's another way of putting that thing. That's kind of my goal in the day. So, here's the thing, again, that's something I discovered early today. And this is something I was talking about yesterday, I believe, the October 5th reading, the part 2 of that, is the 10th step today, the way I'm seeing it. Continue to take personal... I better just get right to the textbook here. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Period. So that means, to me, today, that step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, period. Might be extensive, expansive, large. It's going to take a considerable amount of time, not to mention other resources, to try and correct these things. Which, now, last month, September, 9th month, 9th step says, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So, who are these such people? I think they came from step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Here's a point. In step 4, we made this moral inventory of ourselves. And then, in 5, 6, and 7, we did some more stuff. We admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, and step 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. This puts us in a condition where step 8 becomes possible, at least the second part, and became willing to make amends to them all. So the making the list, that can be kind of mechanical. It's easier to keep the emotions out of the way, maybe. But now the willingness to do something about the things, that's a whole different cart. And we're going to worry about that probably in the month of August, the 8th month. And in the first 7 days it might be clearer. So if you have a copy of this, go check that out. See if it works for you. Anyways. Yeah. Continue to take personal inventory. So, and promptly admitting. This is the thing I'm trying to get at today. Why the prompted admittance to a wrong? Well, to conserve energy, resources, and that's primarily time, let's say. I just want to go off on that tangent now about that as a human being, you've got a finite amount of time to do stuff. You're going to run out of time someday. And none of us know exactly when that will be. We might be able to ballpark it to what degree of accuracy, I don't know. Pretty fair, actually. And we can kind of come up with an overarching plan. But the life for human beings on this planet Earth can get, there's complexities upon complexities that the variables, things just change all the time. So that's maybe perhaps another reason why you're, a few days ago I brought this up. Say you have some kind of disagreement at work. Whether you're the employer or the employee, it's about attendance. And this is what happens. Say everybody's expecting the workday to start at 9 a.m. But someone isn't there. And nothing can happen because that person isn't there. That's got a whole cartload of problems with it. So, this someone shows up, and the employers might say you were expected punishment of some type is in line. And this, I started this video, there's this clash. Each party thinks they're right. In the interest in saving resources, number one resource, time, I'm just going to say for today, that employee signed a contract. They should be aware that they should be there on time. And when they're not, there's going to be some kind of punishment of whatever kind. Might mean whatever it might mean. So, this person doesn't want the punishment. The person that broke the rules. So they try and argue their point and make it not so or whatever. And nobody's given an inch. So, promptly admitting you're wrong. To incorporate the other person's point of view into your self-spoken narrative about the situation in the interest of saving time. And now why? Because this is back to the fourth step, inventory, and then the 8th step, making a list and the willingness to fix the things on the list, and then the 9th step, confronting these people, except if it's going to further cause harm, to fix the things that you did or that you're willing to admit you did or something like that. And then that can be enormous. So we've already got this bag of stuff that we're working on. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now why 10? That's simply so I'm not going to end it like yesterday's thing. yesterday's baggage. Maybe I'm kind of dealing with yesterday's baggage actually right now because of things I left undone or I didn't complete or whatever. And now it's like not only do I have that original stuff from 7 that maybe didn't get complete yet, and the 8, step 8 and 9, the willingness to correct these things, that I still have items on my list that aren't complete. Step 9, I'm doing it now. But then I trample toes and I cause more problems with maybe a different group of people, and I've made the mess worse. Maybe. This is all just a story, okay? So step 10 is in place that I can promptly, hopefully I've become aware to some degree that by doing the first 9 steps, that by the time I'm at step 10, I'm catching myself at least at the latest, right in the midst of a screw up, and I admit that I could be wrong, and then I admit that I am wrong, at least to myself, and then I try and fix the situation then, rather than this insistence that I'm right. And then the separation of the thing happens, overnight happens, the next day starts, and you've got that steaming hot plate of regret, I called it yesterday, on your plate, first thing to deal with, on top of the stuff you didn't do before. And that's why the step 10, I continued this personal inventory. Possibly at the end of I'm going to run out of time. So let's call this part 1. I'm going to get into part 2 and try and explain this, because I feel like it today. So thank you for coming by here, and I'll get back with you later. Goodbye.